Your company's called Prologue. I mean, how much do you watch the films to get into it to say? Because I think that you see titles as the sort of
the beginning.
Yeah, this is to set it up, and so you spend quite a bit of time.
I have to watch the film. I
Yeah.
have to read the script. I have to watch the film. I have to collect whatever material, research material they have, whatever production design stuff they have, fodder, creative material.
Yeah.
And that's where the idea comes from. And Prologue, one of the reasons it's called Prologue is because I've really gotten more into, they have a test screening, and someone realizes that some of the backstory isn't clear, or some aspect of the movie isn't clear.
Okay,
So
right, that's interesting.
For example, and I'm doing a lot. I've almost become a specialist at setting something up that isn't set up in the show itself.
Yeah.
I mean, Hulk. We just did the Hulk, and whether the end result is good or bad, millions of people talked about on the internet how it encapsulated the whole backstory, the origin story, in 2 minutes, and everyone was like, "How could they tell that whole story in 2 minutes?" But that was the whole challenge. So, and I think 7 is memorable because it became the first scene of the movie. It's not. I don't think you can separate it from the movie itself.
No, I don't think you can. No, and I think that's to your credit.
That was more of a credit to David Fincher, really, because I think that he knew that it was part of a larger whole, and he knew that he needed to set up the killer, John Doe, and I'm working with him now, actually not on a title, on something else, but I'm just reminded of how he's just really smart, and it's really, when you have a really a brilliant client like that, and a visually sophisticated client like that, it's kind of hard to, he wouldn't let me go too far.
No.
A good director sort of keeps it on track, but then there's other directors that are actually worried that the title's going to upstage the movie or something,
I bet.
and so they want to.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of
turn it
movies
down
that
a
come
little
out
bit.
with pretty cruddy titles, aren't there? The people that aren't doing the research and finding stuff, that are actually, just putting the stuff up, putting what they need to put up.
There's a lot of bad design. There's a lot of bad design in the world.
And what I find most irritating is how that a lot of the time the titles don't actually work with the rest of the marketing.
Yeah.
The poster doesn't share the type, or doesn't, and I just find that really odd. And I guess that's to do with the production.
Well, there's specialists. There's marketing.
Yeah.
There's.
But if you think of the good ones, like Jaws, for example, or Alien, where it all shares, and Kubrick stuff all shares the same look, and you get other people that they just don't. Somebody.
Well, look at the ones that you just named. They all have directors.
Yeah, I suppose so.
That Steven Spielberg can say.
Yep.
I want the Jurassic Park thing to be throughout the whole campaign, whereas a lot of other directors don't have more power than the studio marketing people. They don't have a say in what they do. And one marketing person is thinking that this will sell the movie, and I appreciate that it's all part of a package, and I think it's possible to make it all part of a package, but I also think that the main title has a different piece of work to do sometimes. Early in my working life, I was reading that Saul Bass said that a main title sequence is a metaphor for the movie, and I was pitching Goodfellas to Martin Scorsese through R. Greenberg, and I was trying to think of all these metaphors of gangsters and everything, and that wasn't the problem.
You got yourself tied up in a whole load of knots.
And he wasn't happy at all, and he kept saying, what, because I wasn't watching the beginning that he already cut. He had Ray Liotta looking in the trunk and saying, though I've gone from rags to riches. It's like they're in the car and they say, what's that in the trunk? And he started saying, I like those titles that Saul Bass. Do you know Saul Bass he used to do? I said, oh yeah, Saul Bass. He's still around. He's in L.A. And I got fired. And Saul Bass did Goodfellas. And the guy who said, it's a metaphor for the movie, did this thing that I would argue, it's just cars going by. It's like, zzz, zzz. It's an intercutting little animating, panning type. And it has nothing to do with the movie. It's not a metaphor at all.
No.
It just works with the beginning that he already had, and that's my point. Is that the beginning may not necessarily be what the idea that gets people to go to the
Yeah,
movie.
no,
It's just
sure,
that you got to
sure.
be sensitive
No,
to what
no.
how the thing opens.
Yeah. Well, listen, I
But
think
if you can
it's
do
a
both,
separate
you
thing.
transcend the argument, I guess. If you
Well,
can,
I think it's separate, but I think if you could use the elements
exactly.
that pull people in, but once they're in, I would argue it's the setup of the film.
But I have I've met all these designers that go right at it, trying to think of a metaphor for the movie.
No.
And it's a
No,
sort of
I wouldn't wanna be-
it's a self-indulgent exercise, and they make these great things. It's like, did you watch the movie? Have
Yeah.
you seen the first scene? Did you read the script? And it's it's good for me
Yeah.
because I can compete with people that don't even read the script.
Yeah,
It's
if you
of course
look
I'm
at-
gonna
if I
win
look at,
you don't even know what the problem is. How
Yeah.
are you gonna,
If I look at Blood Simple, the Coens,
Yeah.
which is brilliant,
Yeah.
the way that they're driving, and it is just part of the film.
Yeah.
And the wiper comes on or the type comes on, and it just gets you straight into the film.
Yeah.
And I would have said that's what it's all about. I wanted to ask the other question was, have you ever wanted to do your own films, shorts, is it a natural progression to move to producing and or is that
it's a long
for an off-camera
every
conversation?
the suggestion is that it's a natural progression to be a director, and it's something that I've always wanted to do, but also I think there's something the idea that Paul Rand pretty much did logos his entire life and became the best at that, I don't think is lesser. Like I don't look at his life and say
No, not at all.
No, but I'm just saying from the justification that I used to think that I was kind of settling for less if I
Yeah.
didn't aspire to be Ridley Scott, but I kind of like having my one little craft.
like what you do.
Craft
Yeah.
that I know how to do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel comfortable doing it. And I had business partners previously in my last company that would be thinking of business plans and, rightly so, saying we should be moving into experience design
Yeah.
or architectural, architectural things. And I would say that's fantastic, and we should definitely do that. But I want to do main titles. We got